happening, or at least people are recovering back. And last few weeks, we have seen around us. I live partly in Dubai, partly in Bangalore. Dubai is almost fully functional today, fully functional. Of course, with all the necessary precautions. Bangalore is still having a problem, but Delhi is recovering back faster, and other cities. So, in short, I think we have come to a stage where COVID has now become a part and parcel of our life, and it will continue. The whole scenarios, what we see around us, the masks, the vaccination talks, the sanitizations, social distancing, I think they're going to continue for a longer time. And that is why it is very, very important and very, very critical that we relook. Every company has to relook its strategies, be it the business strategy or the digital strategy. Now, where do we come in from? Mercado is a small group. You can say it's a group of startups, by the way. So we have Mercado Technology, which is the transformation and strategic consulting company based out of Bangalore. And we work with customers, providing them digital consulting, transformation consulting, strategic consulting, GTM consulting around multiple verticals and multiple technology arenas. GoKadal is a platform solutions company based out of Dubai, and it's world's first digital solutions exchange. I'll give you a small preview at the end of this presentation. And then our focus area, because whatever technology you take today, you take drones or robots or VR or AR, you take blockchain, you take data, you take analytics, you take video, everything falls under these four domains pretty much. Automation, augmentative, artificial intelligence, and analytics. And I call it 4As. And these 4As are going to transform everything around us. It has already started happening. We have three go-to-market line of businesses. Transformation consulting, as I mentioned, which is our main bread and butter, I should say. And I'll give you a preview, but I'm not going to touch other businesses, but today's discussion is not about our business. It's more about digital strategies, and we have a very senior guest speaker amongst us. GoKadal platform is our focus business running out of Dubai, and Data Samudra, which is one of India's innovative and recent launches in data center and cloud, being India's first on-demand and on-requirement flexible cloud data center solution. Some other day we'll talk about these. Now, when we look at digital disruption, which is happening around the globe, I'll just set the stage and then welcome our guest speakers for this. When we look around, we are into disruption 3.0. Started having disruption around 20, 25 years back or 30 years back when the computerization started happening, as in layman language. Then we moved ahead, and then we had another big milestone, which was networking and internet, which again changed the entire paradigms around how we work, how we connect, how we talk to each other. And then came smartphones, mobility, and everything. 1.6 billion students got impacted because of this pandemic. Now, it would have been very, very bad news for all of us, especially parents. But the good thing was, thanks to digital, thanks to technology, many of these students, I won't say 100% of them, but maybe around 70, 80% of them were still able to continue their education online, virtually, through platform. That is the impact of digital. India data center grew to 375 megawatt by mid-2020. In the last 4 months, we have seen so many announcements. I'm sure you would have heard and read about a couple of announcements in the market, with Hiranandani announcing 4,500 crores, Reliance announcing, then Data Samudra announcement being one of the flexible data centers, and so on. We are looking at a deluge of data, and that is why the demand for data center and cloud is going high. Microsoft in May announced that they had a 775% of CAGR in 2 months on their cloud business. Imagine 775%. Blockchains have started transforming cities. We now have cities running on blockchain technology. I spend a lot of my time, 50% of my time in Dubai, and I can tell you the government of Dubai has set very strict goals for having 100% processes on blockchain by end of December 2021. And I'm sure they're going to do it because earlier, when they set up their digital target 3 years back, they did it. And last but not least, this is the latest one. Digital payments in India actually are reaching more than 2.5 trillion. When I say 2.5 trillion, means the kind of payments we do and kind of transactions we do through our digital payments. Now look at where we have come from demonetization, when digital payments were hardly double percent, to now when we're looking at trillion of dollars moving through our digital gateways. This is what disruption has made possible. And the good thing is this has happened for the positive sense. Market is still buzzing it. We just read about a survey where they asked CIOs what are their top challenges, and if you can see on the screen, lack of resources, cost, and availability of solution have been the biggest challenge for them. Which means everybody wants to adopt a digital solution or a digital tool, but finding the right digital tool for their requirement, for their challenges, has always been a tough thing, right? So that's one. Second, another survey which was done by Dell Technologies in 2016 and then repeated in 2018, within 2 years, we could see 2.5x jump in adoption rates. We could see 5x jump in 6 months in developing world, countries like India, South Asia, and Middle East and Africa. And finally, another survey, you can see at the bottom by McKinsey, which was done very recently. And this survey was around the COVID period. Digital adoption by industry has grown 25% and higher for everybody on an average, which means every company, every organization, be it small, medium, or large, either has already started the journey or has just knocked the journey, because now there's no option. No option. Now, how has disruption created a good impact or a positive impact? Let me take one example, because this example I love to take again and again, because I don't see any other example which has touched middle class so heavily. Of course, there are mobile payment, but this one somehow is close to my heart. This is an example from the banking industry. As a student, when I was in my last years, like 10th to 12th, I used to do a lot of banking transactions, because we remember those days. I'm talking about 1990, 91, when we used to fill up forms to colleges for entrance examination. You have to get a demand draft made, send the demand draft through speed post or through registered post and all those things. We used to go to banks, stand in a queue, get a token, pay the money, fill up a form, and then the bank will tell us, and I have done it personally, I'm sure some of you might have done it. Please come around 2:30 and pick up your draft. It was almost a half a day wasted just to get a draft of 100 to 200 rupees. Then came ATM, and things became a bit easier, because now I don't have to go to bank for certain transactions. I don't need to go to bank for withdrawing cash, depositing cash, checking my balance, etc., etc. And then came online banking or mobile banking, which actually virtually stopped the entire process. And let me tell you, in last few years, I think last 7, 8 years, I haven't gone to bank for any draft, because all the payments, even government payments, are being made on, right? So now, what are we looking forward to in this experience, in the banking experience? This is what is the future: cryptocurrency. With India legalizing cryptocurrency a couple of months back, I think we are now looking at a deluge of cryptocurrency. At least I've got 3 invites to join a cryptocurrency forum or something like that in last 2 months. So this is how experience has been building up, especially for people, middle class, or what we call people who don't have that much resources to outsource these kind of things. They have to struggle. And one good thing now is that this digital thing has made things much easier, whether it's the admission of their kids, passport appointments, driving licenses, or simply ordering groceries. The whole experiences have been beautiful, and they continue. So what is happening with technology now? We're doing work much faster. We're doing work anywhere, anytime. And that's exactly what last 4 months have shown us. And there's a huge deluge of data around us. But it comes with its own problems, which is threats. We have double the threats now what we had 10 years back, which is bound to happen because every coin has two faces, two sides, and we have to live with it. Digital adoption timelines have gone down drastically. In the first wave of digital disruption, it used to take a couple of years for any organization to adopt digitization, like computerization. It used to happen 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Digital disruption through internet, mobility, smartphones, that made it possible that now digitization happened much faster in a couple of months or at least weeks. But digital disruption three, we don't have time. So customers are asking, can I get onto a digital platform in next couple of hours? When this whole Corona thing started, and when many schools started offering online classes, there were a lot of educational institutions who had no platform. Believe me, it took hardly any time, maybe maximum 1 day, 24 hours for them to go online. That is the power and that is the speed by which digital disruption is happening today. Corona has made things worse. At the same time, I should say, Corona has created new opportunities, new paradigms, and new avenues for all of us. And when I say this, I think I would like to now move into our main session, how our digital strategies needs to change, align to post-COVID world. What are the few parameters around digital which we need to look at when we are looking at living in this world? Because we cannot avoid this now. So it's my privilege to invite my mentor, my ex-boss, one of industry's renowned thought leader, Mr. Amir Azimi. Mr. Amir Azimi is now in US, running a consulting company called Petrus Consulting. Before that, he was in India, where he was the CIO for RMC Group and independent director on board Bhubaneswar Smart Cities. Before that, Mr. Amir was managing director of Cisco Consulting Services for Asia Pacific region. And prior to that, he was a CIO for OmniArt, one of the big developer companies in UAE. Mr. Amir is a very well-known leader in smart cities, IoT, and digital strategy area. He has been advisor to multiple organizations and government functions. He has been speaking in international forums, and he has consulted very critical and very ambitious projects. To name one or two, DMIC India, which is one of the biggest infrastructure investments in India. Most of you would have heard about the Delhi-Mumbai Infrastructure Corridor, and then India Smart Cities Mission. And before that, he has consulted on multiple projects in South Korea, Iskander, Philippines, in India, of course. So Mr. Amir is actually joining us live from Seattle, USA. And let me tell you guys, it's around 4:55 a.m. But I think that's great that he could join us. Amir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ravinder.
Hello. Yeah, I'm going to pass the host so that you can.
Okay. Thank you very much. So first of all, I hope all of you are doing well, keeping safe under these trying circumstances. As Ravinder mentioned, things seem to stabilize a little bit in India. The number of cases in the US also seem to be coming down slowly. So, it's time for us to now stop and say, how does this impact our businesses, right? That's the most important thing. And if you look at it, and Ravinder also alluded to this, COVID-19, without a shadow of doubt in anybody's mind, is the single largest disruptor in the history of business. You've seen businesses go down, you've seen businesses go up, you've seen new businesses start. You've seen companies change direction completely. You've seen everything that is there. And let me tell you, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, there will be no return to the earlier normal, right? So that whole idea of whatever we were doing in the earlier normal, that will not exist anymore, right? There will be no earlier normal. And the new normal, I think, is still being defined, right? And that's the most important piece that we need to remember. If anybody talks about the new normal, please remember that it's still not as completely defined as what is the new normal going to be. But there are certain indications, and that is the most important thing to think about. And the new normal, I also would like to call it the next normal, because as I said, there will be no return back to the older normal, right? So it is the next normal which we are talking about, literally. And at this point in time, business reinvention is not going to be a choice anymore. People will have to change their businesses. People will have to adopt newer technologies, etc. And if you look at some of the impact on businesses, some of the very large retail chains in the US, Neiman Marcus is a very large chain, and a very expensive retail clothing store. Uh, they have gone bankrupt. They have closed some of their stores. They're in the process of closing other stores. Macy's, very well-known chain again, right? They are closing down their stores. And all this has happened in the last few months, and purely because of the disruption that has been brought by COVID. There are malls which are closing down in the West, in US and Canada, because people don't want to come to malls. And some of the leading companies which were, the leading tenants in these malls, like Neiman Marcus and Macy's, etc., they've closed down their stores, right? You've seen offices downsizing their space requirements. Uh, I've seen a lot of companies, I think Google mentioned until mid next year or end of next year, people will still work from home. Uh, Microsoft mentioned that by June of next year, people can start thinking about coming down to the offices. So obviously that will lead to downsizing of office spaces, right? So that is happening. But on the other hand, you see that there is an uptick in certain businesses. And why is that? Because they've adopted digital to the core, right? Certain examples I'll give you of uptick in businesses. If you look at the US, Amazon, for example, right? They're having the best years that they've seen. Salesforce.com just announced that they have done a wonderful quarter. You look at companies in India, Flipkart, for example, is doing wonderfully well. Some of the others like Swiggy and some of the others, which are relying on digital heavily, they're doing well. And mark my words on this, co-working will expand further. People think that co-working will go down. I don't believe so at all. I think co-working will expand much further going forward. Right. And these are some of the COVID-19 trends which are here to stay. I don't think these new trends which have come in which will go away, like remote work, for example. Work from home has become common now. Everybody wants to work from home. Employers have now realized that there is actually an advantage in companies or in employees doing that. Even old world economies have now started to realize that actually there is value in people working from home. It might not be everybody working from home, but it'll be at least, I would guess, about 70-75% of the employees will continue to work from home for a longer period of time. Maybe 3 days a week. Maybe some will work from home almost every day, right? Digitization of customer service that has happened, I think that will continue. Shift to e-commerce, everybody is ordering things online these days. I think that is not going to go away in any hurry. Greater use of self-service, right? I've been to buildings here in the US and other places where self-service has become very common. So there are no people that you interact with a whole lot, because interaction with people will bring certain problems with COVID, right? Then there is this whole contactless delivery options. And when I say contactless delivery, it's not just, food delivery and package delivery and all of that. It's delivery of services in general, right? You go to banks, you'll see a lot of contactless delivery going on there. You go to buildings, for example, offices, etc. I'm seeing, certain offices introduce applications where you don't even have to press buttons in an elevator. You can operate all that through a mobile phone. So trying to minimize contact as much as possible, because that is one of the primary reasons for the spread of this virus, right? Increased focus on safety, cleanliness, and health. I don't think that is going away anytime soon. Bulk buying, stockpiling, unfortunately, that there's a fear factor that people always have, because of which I think that will still continue. Use of online and on-demand platforms. I think this is something also that was accelerated by COVID, and that is again a trend that is here to stay and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So with all of these, then the companies in the world will start to think, okay, if all of this is happening, the world is changing, COVID is the disruptor, there are new trends happening, what should I be doing then, right? Albert Einstein once said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And that's exactly what is going on. That in the middle of this difficulty, in the middle of this pandemic, there's a huge opportunity out there for people who are willing to step up and digitize themselves and then literally take over the world, right? You've seen this picture many times. I'm not going to stress on this a lot, right? I've lived in the US before when Netflix did not exist, and Blockbuster was a very, very large store. You used to have multiple stores in each city where you go and rent movie cassettes, and you rent it for a few days, and they made their money not from renting those cassettes but charging you late fees. So you rent it for, let's say, 1 week. If you're late by a day, you pay twice the fee that you used to rent for that cassette, right? So it was not Netflix which killed Blockbuster. It was those ridiculous late fees, right? Look at Uber. Uber is not the one which killed the taxi business. It was the limited access and fare control, and so on and so forth, right? And what is the learning you need to derive out of this? That technology by itself is not the disruptor. If you look at all of these companies, technology is a common factor. But the truth is that technology is not the disruptor here. It is these companies not being customer centric, these companies not thinking about their customer being at the front and center of everything they do. That was the biggest threat to any of these businesses, right? Whether it is Amazon, whether it is Airbnb, any of these, I think they leverage technology at the right time to provide the best customer centric service. That's the reason they are where they are today, right? So digital now is the new normal. There is no escaping that at all, right? There's no question in anybody's mind that digital will drive the way forward as businesses go in the next era. I'm sure you've seen a lot of interesting cartoons about this, right? Here's a company sitting in a building saying digital transformation is years away. Don't see our company having to change anytime soon. And there's the COVID bomb that is coming and striking them, right? So all of these companies will now have to start thinking about transforming themselves. And while we were at Cisco, we always used to say, every company will be a technology company. And believe me, today that statement is true, right? And this is a very profound statement. You need to carefully absorb this, right? And this says that your company may not be in the software business, but if you don't adopt quickly, if you don't transform yourself quickly, eventually a software company will come in and will be in your business. Look at what's happening around you. What is, Netflix? Netflix is a software company. What is Airbnb? Airbnb technically is a software company. All of these companies have come in and disrupted large industries. Who would have thought that the hospitality industry would be disrupted by a technology company, by a software company? But that is exactly what is happening. So read that again. It says your company may not be in the software business, but if you don't transform yourself, if you don't use digital transformation to move forward, eventually there will be a software company which will come in and take over your business, will be in your sector. Accenture did a paper recently called Tech Vision 2020, right? And here's an interesting quote from them. And they say that as companies enter the future, digital technology actually will not remain an advantage. Today, the digital technology, being digital, is an advantage to companies, but that is fast moving from being an advantage to a basic expectation. Ravinder talked about the transformation in banks. Will you now go to a bank or do business with a bank which asks you to come and stand in line to prepare a 100 rupee demand draft? I'm sure you will not. You will want to do everything from your fingertips. You want to do everything from their app. Banks are now being evaluated at the user friendliness features of their apps, right? Look at how ICICI Bank, I think it was, which used to advertise with Amitabh Bachchan, where they used to come home and open an account and things like that, right? So companies will now start to get evaluated on their digital features, not on anything else. In today's world, customers are not even expecting to talk to your customer service people. They want to interact with them digitally. They want to, send emails. They want to do chats. They want to do even chat bots, for example. People are getting very comfortable with that. So that's where people need to start moving towards, right? This is an example of how companies in various segments are adopting the new normal. Look at healthcare. Telehealth doctor visits will replace the traditional annual physical. In the US, in India, the trend is starting now, but in the US, there is this annual physical exam that is a very common thing. And everybody pays a lot of attention to that, right? And there is a whole queue for that. People actually have to call the doctor's office and schedule an annual physical almost months in advance. Now, all of that will get replaced. It'll be a telehealth doctor, right? You will probably walk into a center which has a telehealth machine, and you will interact with your doctor that way. All your tests will be done that way. Manufacturing, full adoption of supply chain. Real estate, this is an interesting one. All new construction of homes that will happen beginning this year or next year will include a separate space for either co-working or offices for people, where somebody can come and meet them and things like that. So designing a bedroom versus designing an office room will be very different. People will start to look at lighting. How do I make sure lighting is proper for video conferencing? How do I make sure there are appropriate nooks and corners where electricity points are available? How do I make sure there is enough light coming in from various aspects? So people will start to look at that in real estate. Retail, e-commerce sales, we talked about that. That will account for a third of the total retail spending. That's huge. Look at what Geo is doing in India, acquiring e-commerce companies left and right, acquiring traditional businesses left and right, which they will eventually transform into e-commerce companies. Financial services, right? Tokenization will come in. That whole, adoption of artificial intelligence, adoption of data analytics is going to literally change the way some of these industries, some of these. If you look at almost all of these industries, these are what I would call old age economies, right? And all of these are going to transform themselves. Some of them have literally transformed themselves overnight. because of COVID, and now the rest will transform themselves as we go along. Right? So we're talking about digital transformation. I want to spend a few minutes, describing to you what my view on that is. Right. First of all, there's a whole lot of confusion. This whole digital landscape. There are different terms that are being used. There is digitization. There is digital transformation. There is digital reinvention, and there is being digital. Right. So, what do all these mean? So digitization purely means taking what you're doing right now and just moving it online. You have forms that you fill in when a person goes to your office. Just take that form and literally move that online. Move it to an app, for example, right? It started with financial services, with some of the things that we talked about with banks. Finally, public sector started to do that, where health records were moved to proper government services online and things like that. And then digital transformation came in and said, well, it's not important to just move what you're doing. You'll have to start doing things differently. You'll have to focus on customer experience. And that's what started to happen, right? And that whole fourth industrial revolution started to be looked at, and people started to prepare their companies for the fourth industrial revolution. I'll talk about fourth industrial revolution in the next few slides. Then there was digital reinvention. So if you look at the previous slide, we were talking about doing things differently. Now, digital reinvention is doing different things. So you're literally transforming your business model. These are companies which are now starting to say, I am a technology company. Airbnb is a technology company. Netflix is a technology company. People saying we are a data company, right? A lot of research companies are now branding themselves as data companies. That is digital reinvention. And then being digital is completely changing your entire operating model, adopting the whole platform business model as it is being called now. How do you bring your internal and external ecosystems together? How do you bring technology to life? You might have heard thinking digital first, right? So anything you do, you first think of, how do I bring this to life from a technology perspective? How do I make sure I can be digital first in these particular aspects that I'm introducing to my business? So these are the four different aspects: digitization, digital transformation, digital reinvention, and being digital. What companies need to now start thinking about is, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? Do I want to purely move my business to an online portal? Do I want to completely reinvent myself? Do I want to think digital first? Whatever you're thinking about, you have to start taking those steps because the world is moving forward, right? You saw the first industrial revolution being the steam engine, then the electricity came in. The third industrial revolution in the 1900s was about computing. Now, the fourth industrial revolution is about getting everything connected, which is where we are today, right? And which is where the whole fourth industrial revolution comes in. And this is nothing but digitization and integration of different value chains. It is digitization of product and service offerings. It is different business models, which are digital business models, and different ways of customer access. And the different technologies that will be used, I think Ravinder alluded to pretty much all of these, right? Started off with the availability of cloud computing. Uh, I don't know how many of you use Amazon Web Services, but the prices of Amazon Web Services are coming down on a monthly basis, literally, right? And they actually come and tell you this is how you can reduce your cost for computing. So computing becoming so cheap, now everything starts to get moved to the cloud. People still have questions about, whether the cloud is safe or not safe and all that. Just look at, the kinds of companies that are working on the cloud today. The defense systems work on the cloud today, right? All banking systems, financial transactions happen on the cloud. You just have to ensure you take care of your cybersecurity. And if you do that, then cloud computing is one of the safest and most reliable platforms that is out there. Augmented reality coming in, right? In real estate, I come from a real estate background. uh, People are now going to stop visiting offices to look at them. People are going to stop physically visiting homes before they rent them. In fact, people are going to stop visiting car dealers before they actually look at cars, etc. Right? Augmented reality is going to jump into all of those areas. Sensors will take over the world, right? Every little place. The cost of sensors has become so cheap today that people will start using this everywhere. You can literally think of, right? 3D printing, it's going huge. Again, going back to my previous job at RMZ, we had started to look at bringing 3D printing into construction. Yes, you can't, 3D print an entire commercial building today, but can you 3D print elements of that is where we were looking at. But if you look at China, for example, they're actually 3D printing homes. That's literally happening today. And I don't know when I will get used to this, but 3D printing food has become common now. People have started to 3D print pastas and things like that. I don't know, somehow that sounds a little too ridiculous to me, but maybe I'm from the old school. But this gives rise to a lot of different things, right? There will be a lot of fraud that will happen and all that, and there'll be technologies which will come up for fraud detection. Human machine interfaces, all your robotic process automation, your intelligent process automation, all of that will come and become more popular. Location detection technologies. Every app you use today wants to know where you are right now because they're trying to see how they can provide you random and customized services wherever you are, right? So that is an important thing that will happen. IoT platforms is another important piece. Artificial intelligence is embedded pretty much into everything you talk about here, right? So this is what we are calling the fourth industrial revolution, which is literally going to take over the world. This is what the digital transformation services will sort of revolve around, all of these different technology platforms, right? As you move towards digital transformation, what you need to start thinking about is, do you want your company to be a digital master or do you want your company to be a digital victim? What does that mean? Digital masters are the companies who actually leverage technology to increase their profits, right? Look at Nike. Nike has literally transformed their business by their fuel band. They collect so much information about what people do during the day that they are starting to offer new services to them, new ways of doing business with them. Netflix is a wonderful example. I'll talk about that a little later also. Who are digital victims then? Digital victims are companies who now cease to exist and who were leaders in their spaces a few years ago. I don't know, I'm not able to see all of you, but I don't know the ages of people here, but I don't know how many of you remember this company called Kodak. They used to be leaders in making film, in film as in camera film. And they died because digital cameras started to take over, right? And there was no need for people to do film printing. So if you remember, for those of you who might be too young here, there used to be cameras where you put films in and you take pictures, you go in and give them to a printing shop, and they process that film and print it into actual photos and deliver that to you a few days later. Today, it's instant karma, right? You immediately take a picture, you see it, you don't like it, you take another picture, right? Uh, and believe me, the first digital camera was invented by an engineer or a scientist at Kodak. And the senior management at Kodak killed that invention and said, you know what? If I bring this digital camera into business, my film business will collapse. So they did not think ahead and they killed that business. And today Kodak does not even exist. People don't even know that name anymore, right? Digital masters actually reinvent their industries. Look at what AWS has done to the whole IT hardware industry, right? Do you think about buying hardware today? Very few companies think about buying IT hardware today, especially on the server side, right? Everybody is now thinking about how do I use cloud computing and take it to the next wave, right? That's one. And Airbnb, who would have thought that you could go and book, fancy resort rooms, etc., just sitting at your desk and looking at pictures. Airbnb, when they started, they were actually not doing very well. And later on, they discovered that it is because the quality of their pictures that they were putting on those sites was not good enough. So they actually went around, started taking pictures themselves with high quality digital cameras, and all of a sudden the business started to improve, right? So that is an important aspect. So reinventing your industry is something that you will have to start thinking about. Whatever industry you are in, how do I leverage technology to reinvent that industry? And the digital masters also design from the customer into the organization, right? An example is Starbucks. Starbucks actually started a mobile card app, and they created an entire social community around that. And that social community actually gives them a lot of ideas into new drinks that they want to create, new services they want to offer to the customers. So they are now started to listen to their customers and do things as per their needs, right? So those are digital masters. But what is most important? You can spend ages thinking about what to do. Strategy has become a commodity. Peter Drucker, one of the most famous management philosophers, he said strategy is a commodity, execution is an art. So now people need to start thinking about, due to disruptions like COVID, it's time that we move from strategy into execution. I know a lot of companies have spent ages talking about how to do digital transformation. The time for that is over. You now start to execute. You now need to start to execute on those plans, right? And uh, the founder and executive chairman of World Economic Forum had a very interesting quote recently. He said, "In the new world, it is not the big fish which eats the small fish. It's the fast fish which eats the slow fish," right? So if industries don't move fast enough, then they will get eaten by some of the other fish which are faster than them. Some of the other startups, as I said, some software company will come and be in your business if you don't move fast enough, right? So if this quote is not motivation enough for people to start doing things on digital transformation, I don't know what is, right? And as you start thinking about digital transformation, here's an important thing to remember. 84% of companies actually fail at transformation. This is a statement from Forbes magazine. 84% of companies. And why do they fail? The failures are seldom due to technology. It is not the technology which fails them. It is because of change management. They don't know how to manage that huge change in their company. uh, Organizations do not know how to rewire themselves. There is a lot of pushback from various people. The management is not completely bought in. Lots of different things like that. The culture hasn't changed. The culture remains what it was. A lot of these different things are things which cause these transformation projects to fail. So there is one thing which is the whole master plan, the blueprint of what needs to be done. But surrounding that is a whole change management plan that needs to come in, saying, how do I manage this change? How do I communicate this change to the last person down in my chain? How do I communicate it to my partners, to my external, vendor partners, etc.? How do I motivate the people that are there in my team who are resisting this particular change? How does the senior management get involved in talking about this on a daily basis, right? The other important thing is you need to get clarity. You need to get clarity of intent, which is you need to know very well, first of all, if you are driving this digital transformation yourself for your company, you need to know where you're going. You need to know, first of all, where you are currently in the value chain. You need to know what is your end goal. And then you need to have clarity on direction. How am I going to get to where I need to get to? What particular direction that I'm going to take towards that? Am I going to do it myself through the company? Am I going to hire somebody else from the outside to do it? And then you need to have clarity of language. How will I communicate this to the people who are involved in this digital transformation? Remember, people will be the biggest obstacle to digital transformation, and rightly so, because they are worried that if this digital transformation comes in, what will happen to my particular position? What will happen to my job? Right? So the communication also is an art in this. You need to communicate in a way that the people start to think and say, okay, this thing I think is going to be beneficial to me. So that's the way you need to start thinking about from a clarity of language, right? And this reminds me of, I'm sure a lot of you would have read Alice in Wonderland. Let's go back to the old days of when we were reading books in hard copy. Uh, so one day Alice actually came to a fork in the road, and there was a Cheshire cat that was sitting in the tree. And Alice turns to the cat and asks the cat, "Which road do I take?" And the cat asks Alice a question in return. Says, "Where do you want to go?" And Alice says, "I don't know." And then the cat says, "Then it doesn't matter." Right? So if you don't know where you want to go, the direction you take is not going to help you. So first of all, you need to know where you want to go. You need to know what is the end goal of your digital transformation. What are you doing it for? Do you have a plan that is ready? And then you come to that fork and say, okay, now I know where I need to go. Hence, now I will decide how I need to get there, right? So this is a very, very crucial aspect of preparing for digital transformation. Unfortunately, that whole digital transformation machine is not ready yet, where you could just throw stuff at it. You put IT, finance, management, everything into it, and all of a sudden your company gets transformed and you get, a completely connected company with a reformed culture, with a new leadership. Maybe there is an idea for entrepreneurs to start thinking about what that digital transformation machine will look like, right? So there is a five-stage model that has been proposed by a very successful digital transformation leader, a gentleman called Tony Saldana, who actually drove this at Procter and Gamble for a very long time, right? So he suggests that there is a five-stage process to do this, right? He says the first process obviously is, or first stage is to get the foundation right, right? It's more like automation of your business rather than transformation. So if you go back to the definition of the different digital transformations that I talked about, this is actually digitization, right? He's saying start small, start with digitization. That might be a phase one, like move some systems to the cloud, or get an ERP done for your system or for your company and things like that. Stage two is when one function or one business unit actually tries to disrupt itself, tries to create new products. Like, for example, the finance organization coming in and saying, do we really need to close books on a monthly basis? Do I need to stop transactions because my financial team is sitting and closing the books. This used to happen, remember? It happens in some companies even today, where business literally gets stopped. You cannot do any transactions, no expenses, no revenue, nothing comes in because all the books are closed because people are trying to, trying to close those books and get their revenue calculated and all of that stuff. Shouldn't all that be real time? Now, that is an isolated or a siloed kind of a disruption, right? But a very important one. So maybe start off with certain departments getting transformed themselves in a siloed manner. And stage three is what Tony calls partially synchronized, right? Where different departments start to now talk to each other and say, how do we make this transformation more strategic? How do we make this, across the enterprise? Can we make sure that at least our departments are starting to move in a similar direction if it's not in the same direction, right? And then stage four is where the company's ability to reinvent itself comes up. It's a one-time reinvention, thinking about new products, thinking about new platforms, total reinvention, right? Stage five is when the whole transformation now starts to become distilled into the DNA of your people, right? Where they are constantly disrupting themselves. So they're not happy with the disruptions that have happened. They're now starting to think about how do I disrupt further? Because if I don't, then somebody else will come from behind me and catch up and move ahead, right? So that is very, very important, that sustainable disruption needs to be thought about, right? Here, I'd like to talk about Netflix. Netflix is a perfect example of sustainable innovation, sustainable disruption. They started from being a company which wanted to replace those blockbuster stores. And they said, you know what? You don't need to come into my stores to rent those cassettes and DVDs, etc. I will mail them to you to your home. So they just took the physical and moved it to the digital. That's how they started, right? And then they started to say, you know, why don't I start to stream this to you directly, leveraging the power of the internet, right? And then now they've started to move towards original content creation. How many new Netflix series have you seen? How many new Netflix movies have you seen? Now they are actually posing competition to players like Disney. Who would have thought Disney would be challenged by a company which started to rent, movie DVDs? That is the real definition of stage five, where you are completely reinventing yourself and leveraging the fourth industrial revolution technologies, and then you continue to do it on a regular basis, right? And that's what Netflix is doing. Every time they're introducing something new, new content, new ways of delivering content, etc. So this is a five-stage model that has been tried and tested by a lot of companies that you need to start thinking about if you're thinking about digital transformation, right? Now, there are certain recommendations that I'd like to offer, right? First of all, think big. You have to start with a large plan and then start to execute smaller, right? Do rapid prototyping. Fail fast, doesn't matter, do smaller projects. If those projects fail, no problem. Just get up quickly, dust yourself up and move forward, right? Then scale rapidly after that. Don't get stuck in small pilots, because pilots don't fly, right? There's some pun in there, but that's what it is. And keep your customers and customer service front and center of your strategy. Always keep thinking about, how is what I'm doing affecting my customer? Is it helping my customer or not helping my customer? Is it making things difficult for my customer, right? And then this is the most important thing: build a sensing function. You need to have a small team whose job is to just sense around the corners and see what is the new disruption coming in my field, in my industry. Even start to look at other industries and say, how are other industries disrupting themselves? Look at Apple as an example. They have disrupted themselves by looking at all different industries, right? Then focus on resourcing. You have to build the right team to be able to deliver that. Most importantly, you'll have to start thinking about build by partner decisions, right? Executive buy-in is absolutely crucial. The communication needs to start from the top. And then there needs to be a tight change management. You'll have to build change champions in different functions. And then this is crucial. Don't let technical debt hinder your ability to innovate and adapt. What is technical debt? Technical debt is a process where companies, this is used in software programming a lot, where people deliver a program thinking it is going to, deliver certain functionalities, but then you'll have to go back and correct certain things. Don't worry about it. If there is technical debt, let it be there, but don't let that hinder your ability to innovate. That's most important, right? There are certain mistakes you need to avoid as you go on this journey. First of all, do not have a short-term mindset. You have to think 3 to 5 years out, right? Planning is absolutely crucial, right? And think about leveraging outside partners to do this, because it'll have a lot more weight in your own company. If you're not measuring your execution the right way, if you put wrong metrics in place, your transformation will fail. I guarantee you that. And inadequate change management. That's also an important aspect you need to remember. But remember, this is a long road. But when you start to go on this road, you will find that it's really worth it. The journey is worth it. Remember, as I said, technology will not be the sole differentiator, right? Use technology to improve your business, but don't center your strategy around technology. Take your people along on every step of the journey. This is an important thing: adoption and adaptation, which means adopt different ideas from different industries, from different geographies, but make sure you adapt them to your own culture, to your own industry, right? And then create a digital first mindset. Do not forget your company's culture and values. You might have to transform them as you go along the way, right? And then remember that the transformation happens with the small steps that you take, right? So with this, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to disrupt your industry or get ready to be disrupted. With that, I will stop here and hand over to Ravinder.
Thanks, Samir. And this was a wonderful insight into what is happening post-COVID, what is becoming what we call the new normal, and what are the things we need to keep in mind when we look at adopting this journey. And as you rightly said, it's just the journey. It's not an end. Amit, can you just pass back the host to me so that I can have just a couple of more slides, and then we can move into a question answer session, guys. So meanwhile, when Amir was talking about Kodak example, I reminded a personal experience I want to share, because these things give us more learnings on how we want to look at things in future. In 2007, 2004 to 2007, I was responsible. I used to work for Cisco. I was responsible to set up one of the India's foremost, what we call a smart uh, showcase center in Bangalore for Cisco. It's called Cisco Globalization Center. Some of you might have visited it or seen it. It's really one of the first few buildings in India which were truly intelligent with a lot of technology. And I had a privilege of being a program manager delivering this whole project. And when this was completed, it created a big buzz in the market, and a lot of very senior CEOs. And I remember Times of India carried a news that around 41 CEOs of Indian industry, right from Azim Premji's to Bharti's to Reliance's to Adani's, and everybody had come to see that. And one fine day, we had a gentleman. I don't want to name it right now, uh, but he's a very respectable chairman of one of the largest conglomerates of the country. He came with his entire team, and they said, okay, let's look at this. And my management asked me to give them a couple of demonstrations on how buildings can be made smart, how IoT is going to play a role in future, how energy can be saved, and how security can be enhanced, etc. I spent around 1 hour on presentation, and after that, Cisco's senior VP asked a question to this gentleman saying, how do you like it? And he said, I still remember, he said, it's really a magic, converting your building, physical building into a live interactive building. And the second question my SVP asked him, so what do you think, Mr. Can you work with you and convert all your buildings and your campuses? Because they have huge infrastructure in the country. And I still remember the answer that gentleman gave. He said, no. We don't, as Indians, we are very price conscious. I don't think the time has come. And it's a couple of years, maybe another 1 decade before we can see this happening. And let me tell you guys, the same company, same group is now one of the fastest growing companies when it comes to helping customers with digital solutions. Things do overturn because initially this whole thing seemed to be a magic, like it happens. And then like Kodak example, and many felt that, oh, it's just like an imagination. It might not happen. And within a couple of years, we saw that it's a reality. And now we are moving, as I called, the maturity stage of that reality. So here, I will take just 5-7 minutes to give you a preview about how do we help customers to take this journey, what Amir mentioned. How do we help customers to reach that stage from point A to point B in their digital journey? Mercado Technologies in India and Gokadal Technologies in Dubai, they work together to offer customers two things. One is digital transformation consulting, helping customers to create a roadmap, transformation journeys, create the strategy, build their enterprise architecture on digital flavor or digital adoption, and finally taking them along that route by helping them moving from virtual, from a vision to a reality. And in this, we offer consulting services around digital transformation strategy and roadmap. Then smart consulting, where we help customers creating smart buildings, smart campus, smart cities, smart healthcare, smart hospitality, smart hotels, etc., etc. Cybersecurity consulting is a strong flavor that we offer to our customers, and I will show you some names associated with us, part of our consulting expertise, which makes it compelling for customers to look at our offerings and our position. Data center and cloud, we have been working with a couple of data centers, and the journey from a physical data center to a cloud data center transformation in data center is going through full steam right now. Data consulting is all around data analytics, artificial intelligence, deep sciences, and data analytics. And this helps customer to derive insights from their data, and even in some cases, create new revenue streams with their data. IT transformation consulting is about redefining your whole IT setup. Today, when we talk of digital, the first basic foundation we need to look at is what is our current IT standards. As Ahmed said, moving from point A to point B would entail not only discussions around what do I need, but also do I need that? Do I buy that? Do I build that? Do I outsource that? And finally, GTM strategy consulting, especially for companies who have these digital solutions, digital services, we help them create GTM, how they can take these services and solutions on a global roadmap on a global scale. These are some of the leaders what we have in our consulting offering, in our consulting organization. You have already heard Amir. Amir is a global thought leader on smart cities, IoT, and digital, and he helps customers with creating those digital strategies. Colonel retired Inderjeet Singh is one of the India's well-known cybersecurity expert. He's the ex-head leader for Army cybersecurity, and now as a consultant, he helps organizations and CISOs to redefine their cyber strategies. Venkatesh Babu is a 28-year veteran in ELV and automation systems, where we talk about access control, we talk about building management systems, building automation systems, and extremely low voltage automation systems like sensors. And he has been helping customers with adopting automation to a large extent. Shrilal Nelari is our principal consultant for networking and data center, India's first RCDD certified expert with more than 20 years experience in the industry, now helping customers to create strategies and synergies for converting their network transformation, smart cities networks, fiber networks, and also data center networking. And finally, I help customers with the digital strategy, digital transformation, and also process strategy. So with this strong team, we have another team of consultants, digital architects, and technical solution architects who help customers with different aspects of design, architecture, deployment, project management, and and ROI and financial modeling. Uh, the team which you just saw and our other consultants have been working on multiple smart cities. Last couple of years, I have spent myself working on smart cities in Asia Pacific region, right from South Korea, Philippines, Malaysia, and of course India. And Amir himself has been doing this globally. And on the key expertise side, we help customers with building ROI, TCO modeling. We will be sharing this whole recording with you so you can take time. I don't want to go through all this because this is not the time to to position every aspect of us, just giving you an overview. And some of the use cases of recent use cases where we help customers on smart cities development, creating a new data center and cloud strategy in Bangalore, and moving on security posture assessment on the cybersecurity side and enterprise-wide ICT strategies. We bring together a solutions platform called GoKadal, which is world's first digital solutions exchange, connecting solution providers, seekers, and integrators globally. It's purely a cloud platform and it offers multiple digital solutions and disruptive technologies to customers. As of today, we have 30 disruptive solutions on this cloud, and it's mainly into these four domains: automation, artificial intelligence, augmentative, and analytics. Because when we do consulting with customers, the next question obviously is, help me identify and get the right solution. That is why we created this cloud platform, which can help bring solutions, adopt solutions, and deliver solutions to customers from the cloud. And finally, our consulting team has worked with multiple brands, setting up some innovative projects, engaged into some new things, some one of the first kind of projects which have happened in India, South Asia, Asia Pacific, Middle East, and of course, Americas region. So we are present at 3 locations. Our Bangalore, India headquarters is in Bangalore, where we have an entity called Mercado RHA Technology. Then in Dubai, we have a separate entity based out of Dubai Silicon Oasis, which is one of the world's largest technology parks. It's called GoGadal Technologies. And in US, in Greater Seattle, with the name of Petrus Consulting. So just wanted to give you a preview about where we come from. And after hearing Amir, I'm sure a lot of questions or queries might be there. So we would like to open now for question and answer session. You can unmute and ask question, or you can also email us later, because we'll be sending an email with the recording link to this presentation, because some people who couldn't join today. So you can also reach out to us, or our team will be sending an email anyway. But if you have any questions right now, we still have 4 or 5 minutes. You're more than, we can take a couple of questions right now. Adame, back to you.
We are open up for any questions. Please feel free to ask any questions.
And Adame, we're going to send a mail to everyone with the recording and the link to this presentation, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if we don't have much questions now, then we would request people to respond to the mail, which you'll get, and ask any questions, or you have any asks. And one of the things what we can look at helping you maybe as an offering is we can offer a free workshop on your digital strategies, helping identify where you are in the journey, how we can help you, and where you need to take this journey from point A to point B. So we can conduct a free workshop with your team, extended team, and with our team of consultants across the world. We are able to support India, South Asia, Middle East, Africa, and North American region. So feel free to come back to us, revert to us, and if we don't have any questions, Adamya, then you can summarize and we can.
Well, I'll thank you all for joining us in this interactive session. I'd like to thank Mr. Amir Azimi for his great words, and I would like to thank Mr. Ravinder Singh for organizing this session. Well, I'd request you all to feel free to leave the session now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody, and thanks for your
Thank you
time.
and have a great day,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, sir.